Well, here you are at this lovely place. It's just a fascinating place. Whew. Jolly morning. You can see how hot this gets. There is so much involved in just one simple sculpture. If there's a sculpture that's 2 inches tall, it gets the same kind of treatment as a sculpture that might be 6 feet tall, because each has to be created in the mind, imagined, sketched, identifying the parts that I want to use, the different objects I want to use in order to make that a complete sculpture. Then I have all these different parts sandblasted. People with baby strollers, patients from a medical care facility very, very nearby bring their patients over. Those who can come out of the building are brought over here sometimes in their wheelchairs to look at the workshop, to look at what's going on. Or raising torch that are, this one patented in April 1880.
Oh wow.
So that's sort of old.
Double pliers of
Yes, yes. These are valve handles to turn water on. You're looking at a bouquet of flowers, and the flowers themselves are made from valve handles. And because they look like they're capped, you know, the flowers look like they're capped with a touch of gold, I simply called it marigolds, but I spelled it M-E-R-R-Y-G-O-L-D-S, marigolds. Good morning, everybody. Hi.
Mrs. Trains,
I got into a group up here right in front of the workshop. What do you see on this table?
look on the table now at the smaller items. Ashley?
A jewelry box?
Jewelry box.
Yes.
Alyssa?
A bell ring?
Bells.
A bell.
Sure.
Okay, there are quite a few of those around. A ringing bell. Caitlin? Decoration.
A tree decoration, Christmas.
An ornament. Okay, maybe.
Because I drew pictures over here, I do sketching. How many of you like to sketch?
Oh, we've got a lot of drawers in
Oh,
here.
wonderful. Well, that's what I like to do. I like to sketch first. Use my imagination to make and create a sculpture, all right? Over here on the wall, you'll see sketches that I've made, because that's what I like to do. I like to make sketches of the things I intend to do or have done. And so it's fun that way, and I know then what I'm going to do, and I can plan the parts I want to use. Now look here. Look at these heavy things. Wow, are those heavy? Look here, class. Are those heavy? What do those look like? What does this look like?
It could be a bird's feet.
Well, yes, you're using your imagination. Boy, you have a smart class.
I do. They're very good with their imagination.
Okay? Now, what questions do you have for me? What question might you want to know about in relation to sculpting?
How do you get all this?
How do I get all that? I look around in different antique shops and I buy all kinds of shapes. I might tell you that I know just about where everything is here, because I can't spend time, I don't want to spend time looking for things when I go to work. I need to know where the things are for the most part. In this kind of profession, makes people smile, makes people laugh, makes me happy while I'm working, and I love it more all the time. It's a wonderful kind of thing, and I'm so glad that it came into my life. My family has always been involved with salvage, work with the salvage business, not because of me, but because that's what they chose as profession. Working out here sometimes is just very, very pleasurable to just keep going, because you see, you start from, say, a little stack of metal objects, and all of a sudden, while you work on them and you work on them, you want to pet them or you want to hug them, and they take on such life that is fascinating. But I always want to include whimsy somehow. And the titles are important to me. I need to have the titles give a little extra kick to a sculpture, instead of just saying soccer player, which is not adding anything to the title, but I would call it perhaps something like Socrates, or Socrates under pressure, because I want to use, I want to use this particular pressure gauge, which is beautiful actually, and brass, but I want to use this sculpture with this pressure gauge on it, and then after setting up here, perhaps you can be looking down at the soccer ball, and I would be able to title this sculpture perhaps Socrates Under Pressure. Well, once in a while, it's taken me as long as 2 years to come up with a title that I think is really appropriate. It depends a whole lot. In doing a project, it can go from, as I say, it depends on the type of metals used, the intricacies. It can take really from, well, I'd say minimum on any little thing maybe would be 2 days, but it goes 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 12 weeks. It just depends on the materials and on the subject matter, how long it takes. That's a picture of a sculpture that I was commissioned to do for the local hospital. And it's about 6 feet across, 2 feet from front to back, and there are 3 views of the same person. The first person over here is down on his knees, way down, and he's picked up a damaged bird. Next to him, that fellow, the same fellow, has taken that bird and is holding it close to his body, caring for it, loving it. And by doing so, the third view of the same person shows this bird that had been damaged up in his hands and flying away. So I've titled this one, this first one, and then the second one and the third are this. Why? Why did the bird have to get hurt? You know, why did that happen? And the second one is try to give it care, try to give it attention and love. And then in the third aspect of it, the same gentleman is holding the bird in his hands and the bird is flying away. So I like that sculpture in that I think it gives people hope. So it's why, try, and fly again. This is a band person, and he's playing a xylophone. The xylophone is made up of bits of electric screwdrivers. The head of this sculpture is made out of a doorknob. His arms are part from bicycle. His legs are called square conduit. His shoes are made from electrical terminals. The breastplate is made out of a piece of jewelry, actually. And he has a key on his back that looks as if you could wind him up. He does not wind up, but it looks as if he could be wound. So I've called this one, I've titled this particular sculpture, well, that winds it up. This person is riding on the back of a turtle, and because his head is made out of a golf club, and the golf club head is called driver, and there's someone riding on the back of this turtle, it was appropriate to call it driver ed, meaning driver education. The driver itself there, or herself, has a head also from a doorknob. The body there, about this driver, is called a swedge, and it's from the oil fields. The legs are portions of motorcycle kickstands. And the feet come from what used to be tracks inside an old car that helped the seat move forward and backward. The turtle's tail, however, is what was a door stop. This sculpture, this little sculpture is called, it's a China person, a Chinaman, and he has a queue, his pigtail type hairdo, and the ornament on top of his head representing his hat is the lid of, or the top of, a small type bowl in which many things could have been kept. And his little sandals, the shoes are the ends off of bicycle pedals. The body itself there, or the jacket part, is again called a pipe extender. This kind of thing is used among those people who are in the oil industry. This child is attempting to play the piano. He has one hand, his left hand on the piano keyboard, and his right hand, as you notice, is off the keyboard. He's really quite surprised, I think, what he's doing. The sculpture has not been titled yet. He's just finished. I have not come up with a title. But he's sitting upon an old, very pretty doorknob. His legs and arms are made from the handles of nutcrackers, and his body is again made out of a swage. His hat, the very top of his hat, is part of a garden hose connection, and the brim was simply part of a washer that I fashioned to make the brim of the hat. The main part of the piano is made out of an extremely handsome old candy box, a metal candy box. Its legs are antique legs off an antique stool or table, and it's called ball and claw. The keyboard is simply a flat piece of steel. Oh, the finished product on this would take me a while yet, since I have that to do and a few others to do. But altogether, it would probably take me 3 weeks of work to have it sandblasted, and by the time I get all the parts that I want from my store of parts here, and then I'm going to have a young child sitting on this piano stool, which I think I said is a doorknob, a very ornate, pretty doorknob. But anyhow, this little child is going to be sitting here, and I have the keyboard, and he'll be playing piano here with his feet sort of just hanging in midair. I haven't titled this one yet, but I'm thinking about it. As you look at the bottom of this base made from the whole thing is walnut wood, of course, but you'll notice the nice, neat holes that are fixed to accommodate the bolts that I have welded or brazed to the bottoms of the different kinds of subjects used in the various sculptures. And so those bolts then come down through into these holes and then are secured inside the hole. It was fun to realize that this very large pair of tongs looked to me like a ballerina. The hands above the head are simply part of the tongs, but the arm movement and everything there just remind me so of a ballerina. The head there is a sphere from the Chicago Float Works, and by puncturing the sphere, it was workable to put a steel rod through the ball there, or the sphere, making it look as if, or suggesting that this ballerina was carrying a flower in her teeth, and the flower itself, the blossom, is a cog. And so I've bronzed part of it and brazed part of it to the stem, and have been able to title this then Tongue in Cheek. This little lady is quite intricate. Her hat is simply made from a drain cover. Her neck piece and yoke on her dress there is called a saddle weld and used to fit over a pipe of the dimension that would fit underneath the curve. Her dress is a bell. Her arms are part of a bicycle handlebar, or a tricycle handlebar actually. And the wheelbarrow type that she's pushing is an old style egg beater. If it were inverted or turned upside down, it would be used to crank. You see the little red handle there? That would turn the little lacy canopy on top of this wheelbarrow. I'm going to put on the wheelbarrow some little flower blossoms that are from an herb called thyme, T-H-Y-M-E, so that since she's wheeling and pushing a wheelbarrow, B-A-R-R-O-W, I'm going to call this unborrowed time. Sandblasted twice. Each is then sort of polished, and then polyurethane, the equivalent about 6 coats, 4 to 6 coats of polyurethane are added, and that protects them then indefinitely. Then each is mounted, of course, on a custom base, and I put a title tag on each, and they're complete. I love working with these metals. It's fascinating. It's positively fascinating because it makes people question and study and think and smile. So anyway, went ahead with my welding and loving sculpting, had exhibitions, different places. My first exhibition was here at Central. I was invited to present a show there, which I did, and that just seemed to be like a springboard. From that particular day on, that particular show on, I had received invitations to present exhibitions of my work in different parts of the country, and it was so exciting to me, and it is exciting to me, and now I've had over 60 one-person shows, different parts of the country, and it's been very exciting. It's a very wonderful experience. If you choose to want to have this kind of profession, I expect you'll enjoy it and love it as much as I do. Try to remember that all's well that ends well. Thank you.